Hello guys, once again, TheMovieCuban back again with another Witch Doctor build. Man, I am just hammering these things out today. But it's not because I'm trying to be sloppy and just get things out there for the sake of getting them out there. But this is the video that I planned on doing today, in addition to my Zunimasa guide, which, if you haven't seen that yet, you can take a look at it on my channel in the Diablo Guides playlist. But I wanted to draw attention to the Helltooth set today because there is literally so much you can do with Helltooth. This set is so unbelievably widespread in what it can do that I feel it needs to be talked about. It deserves to be talked about. And the iteration that we're going to talk about today is the Helltooth Pet Witch Doctor. And by pets, we're not referring to the fetishes here, since Helltooth does not in fact buff your fetish army or belt of transcendent fetishes damage. We're basically just going to ignore those. We don't need them here. And to run them would be pretty much a waste of time. So instead, we're going to focus on the two pets that do get buffed by the Helltooth set, but we'll get into that right here. So the Helltooth set was revamped in the last patch, I believe, here in 2.4. So now the 2 set makes it so that enemies hit by primary skills, Acid Cloud, Fire Bats, Zombie Charger, Zombie Dogs, Gargantuan, Grasp of the Dead, Piranhas, or Wall of Death are afflicted by necrosis. They become slowed, take 1500% of weapon damage every second, and take 20% increased damage from all sources for 10 seconds. This is a really whopping 2-set bonus, and it may be one of the most intensive 2-set bonuses in the game. I mean, this bonus does everything. It slows enemies to proc your Bane of the Trapped if you're running it. It makes enemies take increased damage, so everything you and your pets do just hits that much harder. It gives you a sizable DOT that'll afflict your enemies, and that's all just in the one bonus. And the bonuses tie really well together. There's a lot of synchronicity in this build that I don't see in some of the other ones. The 4-set bonus, after applying necrosis to an enemy, which all of our skills that we're running here will apply necrosis to the enemy. So this necrosis is going to literally be effective at all times. So you are going to take 50% reduced damage for 10 seconds after applying necrosis thanks to the 4-set bonus. So you're basically just 50% tankier all the time. I know people are running other setups utilizing the 4-piece Helltooth sets for this very reason. And the 6th set, and where it really shines, is after casting Wall of Death, all of the skills mentioned in the 2-set bonus gain 900% increased damage. That's 900% increased damage to our Zombie Dogs, 900% increased damage to our Gargantuan, to our Grasp of the Dead, to our Piranhas, to Wall of Death itself, Acid Cloud, Fire Bat, Zombie Charger if you want to run any of those. There are so many different setups you can run for Helltooth that it's just ridiculous, to say the least. Now, other than the Helltooth, which we're running 5 pieces of the actual set and then the Ring of Royal Grandeur here, so that we can run the Mask of Jerem on our character. And I know a lot of you are probably questioning why I'm doing that, and I'll get to that in a minute. Um, Run the Witching Hour just because of that automatic attack speed and critical hit damage roll, because that is going to be really helpful in beefing up your pets, who are already going to be doing decent amounts of damage. So it's quite useful for that. We're going to be running, obviously, Germ's Bracers. This gives us increased wall of death damage and lets us cast it 3 times before the cooldown begins. But it's 3 times within 2 seconds, so you basically gotta go boom, 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 boom. But by the time the 3rd Wall of Death vanishes, you'll be able to cast Wall of Death again. But I think that's more to do with cooldown reduction than anything else. For the Hellfire Amulet, ideally this would be Ancient, and we'd have Int, Vitality, CHC, CHD, and a natural socket. But I'm content with this for now. As you can see, my Bane of the Stricken hasn't been leveled. I haven't been running this character at all since season started. Been really focused on my my seasonal Witch Doctor, but that's okay, because once I get the Bane of the Stricken leveled, it'll be a lot better. Other legendary gem, Bane of the Trapped, simply because you're necrosising everything and slowing everything, so this is getting procced by literally everything that you do. So your enemies are constantly taking that extra damage. In our other ring slot, we're running the Short Man's Finger, so that we instead get 3 Gargantuans rather than just the 1, and they're beefed up. They're stronger than the single Gargantuan, which is key. This ring rolled almost perfectly, in my opinion. The only thing I didn't get was a natural socket. As you can see, I had to re-roll for that. And we're running the Enforcer gem, obviously, to bulk up further the damage of our pets. But ideal for this ring would again be Intelligence. I'd say attack speed, CHD, CHC, and then socket would be the ideal rolls for this ring. Our offhand, we're running Wilkins Reach. This single-handedly makes it so that I don't have to run a single primary skill on the build, which I kind of like, since primary skills always feel just so much weaker than the rest of the skills that we have. And since I don't want to have to run something like Simplicity's Strength, this just makes it so that I can use Grasp of the Dead as my main attack, and I can just keep proccing that necrosis and keep it up and keep it up. And I know what you're all wondering, well, what does Wilkins Reach do? Wilkins Reach removes the cooldown from Grasp of the Dead, because the cooldown's usually 8 seconds for, or actually no, sorry, cooldown, oh no, yeah, I'm right. So cooldown's usually 8 seconds for Grasp of the Dead, which is, it's not a horrible amount of time in comparison to some of the other cooldown related skills the Witch Doctor has. But when you're using it as your main attack, you don't have the time to keep waiting for that skill to cool down. So instead, we're running the Cold rune. The very first rune on Grasp of the Dead is Unbreakable Grasp, which completely removes the mana cost of Grasp of the Dead and makes it so that enemies are slowed by 80% as opposed to the normal 60% for Grasp of the Dead. So between Wilkins Reach and this rune, I can spam Grasp of the Dead for no cost and with no cooldown. So it's just, I really like it. I feel it's a really welcome addition to the game. And it gives me a choice on what kind of Helltooth I want to run rather than getting stuck into the zombie charger or the fire bat or the acid cloud setup. So now I have another choice that I can use without having to worry about that. In the weapons slot, I'm currently running a Thunder Fury. This is by no means the best weapon that you could be running. It's currently the only ancient that I have for a witch doctor here that's not being used by another class, or another character rather. And I also kind of like the little bit of damage that it does, and the high proc coefficient for this, on how it hits enemies and reduces attack and movement speed. This procs Bane of the Trap further, and it's never bad to have Bane of the Trap procced. Like, I've learned that it's really nice to have Bane of the Trap procced. And let's just run over to the Kenai Cube before I get into the actual skills. In the Kenai Cube, we are running the Furnace to get that additional damage for against elites. We're running Taskers and Theo so we can increase the attack speed of your pets by 50% so they can hit a lot faster. If they hit a lot faster, in return they're doing more damage, and that's never ever a bad thing. In the ring slot, I'm running the Tall Man's Finger so I can get the big bulky zombie dog rather than the small little yapping zombie dogs. And for skills, so we're running Grasp of the Dead, Unbreakable Grasp. This is a cold build for the most part. I'm running Piranhas with Pyranado. If you don't want to run Pyranado, which I'm only running Pyranado so that enemies take the additional 15% damage, and so that it can group enemies up. But if you're not worried about grouping your enemies, then by all means, I would say run Frozen Piranhas, since this will chill enemies and this will further proc the not only the Bane of the Trapped, but it also increases off of the cold damage rolled on my bracer. We're running Spirit Walk Jaunt, pretty self-explanatory for why we're doing that. Since we're running a cold build, and since this just has such a nice widespread area, we're running Wall of Death, Communing with Spirits. This summons a circle of spirits for 6 seconds that deals 1200% weapon damage as cold, chills nearby enemies by 60%, and reduces their damage dealt by 25% for 3 seconds. So we get the 1200% DLT from this. In addition to the 1500% damage over 1500% damage per second DOT from the Helltooth set itself, and this just does a lot of damage. Like, I'm really, really happy with how much damage this can fork out. We're running Zombie Dog Chilled to the Bone to keep with that cold. Enemies who are hit or are hit by your zombie dog are chilled for 3 seconds and take 15% increased damage from all sources. So you're just stacking up the amount of damage that enemies are taking, and then when your enemies, or when your pets hit them, it's just like a fucking truck, and it just smashes into them. And then finally we're running Gargantuan Humongoid, again take advantage of the cold, and the fact that this is literally the highest damage rune for the Gargantuan, and its cleave attack hits multiple enemies, so it's not hitting just one at a time. And since you're going to be having 3 of these guys running around thanks to Short Man's Finger, it's quite nice to have. For passives, there's a little bit of leeway on what you can run, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We're running Midnight Feast just to bulk up our zombie dogs and our gargantuans. We're running Swampland Attunement, so if we get in the middle of a mob, shall we say, which rarely, I think, ever happens, that you're directly in the middle of a mob, just with how I play the build. But if you do happen to get stuck and you get surrounded, then the additional resistances this provides is by no means terrible. We're running Confidence Ritual here. I do think that if you're going to be kiting around, and if you're not going to be super close, if you're trying to stay out of the way, I would say run either Gruesome Feast or Zombie Handler. If you run Zombie Handler, then your dog is just going to be a little stronger and maybe have a little more life. In addition to your Gargs getting more life. You can run Gruesome Feast, since there are going to be a lot of health globes dropping. And I have seen people run Jungle Fortitude, but it's only certain people have run this. So I don't think I would say Jungle Fortitude as the go-to. So either Confidence Ritual, Zombie Handler, or Gruesome Feast. I think we're going to run Gruesome Feast here. And then finally you'll want Spirit Vessel for that, to protect you from one-shots, I would say, would be its primary job. And as I said earlier, we're running Pierce the Veil on the Hellfire Amulet to give us that 20% extra damage, since the only mana spending skill we have is Piranhas, and you're not casting that nearly often enough that you would deplete your mana. For Paragon points, focus on maxing out movement speed. I believe I have 12% movement speed on my boots there, so you only need 13 here in the Paragons. And then throw everything else into Intelligence. If you feel you're a little squishy and you want maybe a little more life, you could run some Vitality here, maybe split between Intelligence and Vitality. But I don't think it's necessary. Honestly, with the increased resistances you get from the Intelligence, you're probably just better off running Intelligence for this. On your offensive, start with attack speed. This will benefit your pets. Then do critical hit damage, which will beef up not only your attacks but also your pets a little bit. Not too much. I'm pretty sure critical hit damage doesn't supremely affect how hard your pets hit. I could be wrong on that, but I've never noticed a real significant increase in damage from my pets with critical hit damage. If I'm wrong about that, then please mention it in the comments, because I don't want to be spreading misinformation. After critical hit damage and attack speed are maxed out, I would say do critical hit chance and then cooldown reduction, since the only cooldown we really have is Spirit Walk and Piranhas, and a little bit of the cooldown for Wall of Death, so that's always helpful. In defense, I would do Resist All, because resistances are king in this game. If you don't resist the elemental attacks from your enemies, you will get one shot no matter how much toughness you have. Then focus on armor, life percentage, and then life regen. For utility, always start on area damage. Area damage, now that it was fixed here in 2.4, area damage can hit like a freaking truck. And it's dependent upon what percentage of area damage you have. I think I only have this 50% area damage. But all attacks have a 20% chance to deal 50% of the damage from that attack to enemies within 10 yards. So say you do, let's say your pet hits for like a 1 billion crit, and you've got 50% area damage, then that means in addition to that 1 billion crit, it's also going to hit additionally for 500 million to the enemies that are standing around that enemy in 10 yards. And 10 yards isn't a huge radius, but you find that you easily hit plenty of enemies. And it's not just your attacks, since we will have the pets, so their attacks also have a chance of proccing that area damage. One final notice, since I'm kind of hesitant on it, if you don't think that you need the furnace, if you're not worried about elite damage, and frankly, you shouldn't be with how many DOTs and whatever that you're running in this build, if you don't think you need that additional damage, I would highly recommend running the Eucapian Serpent to give you just a little bit more of that toughness. And that way, if enemies do hit you, then your zombie dog can take the brunt of that rather than you just getting squashed by it. So we're going to run the Eucapian Serpent here for now, just as a test run so you can see what I'm talking about. The only other thing I think I want to do is my vitality feels like it's on the low end for some reason. Probably because I don't have it on that ring there. Or on my shoulders. Because I rolled the increased wall of death damage here. But if you don't want to run increased wall of death damage on your shoulder, and you're worried maybe about toughness, then I would say just run over to the Mystic and get yourself some vitality or percent life. In all honesty, I think vitality is going to serve you better. So, up to you if you want to run percent life or vitality. So now that I've shown you the build and the Kenai skills and all that, only thing left to do is to show you how it runs. So I ran a 50 on the Zunimasa build, so let's try a... I don't want to seem like a chicken, so let's try a rank 55 Greater Rift. So start by casting out your wall of deaths so you can slow everything, then just spam Grasp of the Dead. The point is to keep your enemies at bay. You want to keep them far away from you so that your pets are the ones who are dealing with them. So this is kind of a kiting build. You can get up close, but like I said before, you want to make sure that your pets are doing most of the attacking, since they're the ones who are going to have the most damage increase from both the Helltooth Set and the damage over time that you get from it. They've got the increased damage from the Midnight Feast passive. Oh, excuse me. So constantly chill the enemies, however you can. If your Wall of Death is on cooldown, spam Grasp of the Dead. As soon as Wall of Death gets off cooldown, then use that. Because it's just going to keep you alive while simultaneously making it a lot easier for your pets to kill your enemies. And here is another thought that does come to mind. If you don't want to run Bane of the Stricken, if you're like me and you've got a really underleveled Bane of the Stricken, you feel like maybe a different gem would serve you a little better, then I would recommend Ice Blink. Ice Blink doesn't get a whole lot of love nowadays since there aren't a lot of high-running cold builds. But I definitely think that the increased crit chance from Ice Blink could only help in this scenario. Let's see. I love it because they don't get time to react, because you freeze them from everything that you do, and then they're kept away from you by the pets, and it just allows you that extra time while your pets are dealing with other enemies to keep the enemies coming towards you at bay, and then your pets can just at their leisure race over and deal with them, so you're not constantly worried about enemies coming too close to you and just smashing you while your pets are busy. The obvious exception to that rule are enemies like Punishers, who will just leap over your pets and attack you. But I have yet to encounter a rift playing this build where that's such a common problem. And honestly, since you're just freezing everything constantly anyway, it's not that big of a deal. So you can see we're making pretty good time. I hate these widespread maps though. I do prefer more close-knit maps, since that just allows me to kill things a lot faster if they're grouped together. Also, I need more elites. This rift's been kinda lousy for elites. And I think what I enjoy the most about this build is I remember saying a long time ago that I didn't think there would ever be a cold build for the Witch Doctor. Like, cold was just not something that you would see on Witch Doctor builds. They were always running either poison or fire for like the Gargantuan, or the Fire Dog build used to be really good. And I remember saying that there would never be a cold Witch Doctor build that I would be able to enjoy playing. And I just feel absolutely silly now, because here I am playing a decently fun cold Witch Doctor build, and it's like it's self-gratifying since it's a build of my own design and my own setup. It's not a build that I went online and took from someone else. Like, it's a build that I came up with through testing, and it's not terrible. Like, as you can see, I can run a 55 pretty easily, and it can go higher. I think this build will max out around maybe 60, but at the same time, I'm not considering this a pushing build, so being able to run up to 60s on this solo is by no means terrible. It's certainly not as good as like the other setups for Helltooth, because I've seen people go pretty high with some of the Helltooth setups that they've got out there. But in terms of safe, like playing it safe so that you're not constantly worried about enemies jumping your bones, this would definitely be... I like how this plays. And the crits aren't bad either. I see anywhere between like... I see up to like 7 billion crits from the dogs and the guard hitting things, so it's by no means weak. It can cut through enemies like quite easily. And you just keep them all away from you. I think what you could probably do, though I hesitate to say it, but since we are running the Ring of Royal Grandeur, if you don't want to run for whatever reason, if you feel Mask of Jerem or Tasker and Theo isn't necessary, if you feel one or the other isn't completely needed, then you could swap out the you could probably get away with swapping out the Mask of Jerem or Taskers for the Aquila Cuirass, since we're not spending any resource. We'd constantly have that 50% damage reduction. So, just another choice that you could have there if you feel that you're kind of squishy and you're worried about if you're worried about your health when it comes to a little bit higher of the greater rifts, then that would probably be something I could get behind. Honestly, if I was gonna choose one of the things to replace, I would probably replace the Tasker and Theo, since the damage buff it gives, I believe, equates out to be less than what you'd get from the 100% Mask of Jerem. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. Pretty sure I saw that somewhere. But it's up to you guys. There's plenty more testing I can do with this build, running all the different variations. But I feel with how it's running right now, I have yet to die on a 55. I've gotten down to low health a couple times, but for the most part I attribute that to just my own sloppy playstyle. Was getting too close to things. So if you stay back and you let your pets deal with things, then I think your health wouldn't be a problem, really. So I'd say put an asterisk for a possibility on the Aquila Cuirass setup, but I don't think it's necessary. I really don't. Simply because it would take away from the damage that your pets are doing if you dropped either Jerem's or the Mask of Jerem or Tasker and Theo. And that would just be terrible. Because our pets are what's doing most of the damage. See, they're just eating through that Rift Guardian's health. And that's without the, that's without my, Bane of the Stricken being anywhere near high leveled. So it's up to you guys. If you want to run Bane of the Stricken or Ice Blink. Because honestly, you're going to be doing quite a bit of damage either way. You'll either just get that 25% extra damage to Rift Guardians, or you'll get the 10% increased chance to critically hit things that are chilled. And since everything's going to be chilled, that's decent. But honestly, I don't think Ice Blink would be a good fit for this. I do think you'd be better off just running Bane of the Stricken here. Since honestly, a 10% increased chance to crit versus the capability of just stacking damage over time, I would definitely pick the damage over time. So there you have it, guys. That is the look at the cold pet, or the cold Helltooth pet witch doctor, rather. That's my current take on it. Obviously, I don't have all ancients, so it's nowhere near as powerful as it could be. But this is just another example of how easily diverse the Helltooth set can be. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, if you have any ideas on how I could improve this build, I would love to hear them in the comments below. If you liked the video, then do me a favor and go ahead and like the video itself with the like button there at the bottom. Every like you give me helps me immensely. If you thought this build was helpful, go ahead and share it with your friends if they play Diablo with you. And I will see you next time, where we will most likely be discussing the Jade Harvester Witch Doctor. It'll either be Jade Harvester or Eric here. I haven't decided yet. So until then, guys, I'm TheMovieCuban, signing out.